What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the MAC, and today it's the belated birthday of the Nintendo Switch 2. This system had a rocky start, to say the least. Before release, when it was just being speculated upon, the console had a huge amount of hype. Shit, even I did a video about a console prediction, which you should still watch. And, like any form of media, if something has hype, disappointment is almost guaranteed. Godfather 3 was an example of something being killed by hype. Then the console faced tons of scrutiny over the price of the system and the physical games, which was caused by economic conditions in the world at the time. And really, when you think about it, physical games should be pricier, given their material component over a digital game, but that wasn't how it was seen by the majority of people, and video game news sites did not take it very well. This led to a huge digital riot and boycott of the Switch 2, which, as history has shown, never works out. There was drama over Mutahar from some ordinary gamers buying one on release despite boycotting it. There were chats filled with hashtag drop the price. It was insane. And then came the release, where it sold extraordinarily well despite the controversies, and we come to where we are today. So, the system itself, the Switch 2 is probably one of the perfect redesigns of any console that has ever come out. It is almost perfect. The Switch 1 basic model, it was already pretty good. The thing was comfy, it was portable, the buttons worked well when it was attached to the console. The technology was great. It was groundbreaking for the time. If you get the Joy-Cons, I consider myself a fan, but they suffered from drift at the very beginning of the console, and that was a bad thing for the Switch 1. But overall, the Switch 1 was very highly regarded. Say hi to the camera. But the tripod on it was horribly flimsy, right? Nobody liked this tripod. They ended up fixing it on the Switch OLED model. But that was a big flaw with the thing, and the screen was way too small. But then the Switch 2, it went above and beyond. Not only is it so much bigger than the Switch 1, the Joy-Cons work better, have had no drift, unlike the previous console, which the Switch 1, I didn't have as bad a drift as other people, but in the past couple years I've had horrible drift. Smash Bros. Has almost become unplayable with the Joy-Cons. But the Switch 2, I've had no drift, no errors, whereas that I almost started to have errors rather quickly with Smash Brothers. The technology of the mouse controls is perfect. The tripod is so much better than the original one. It actually feels like you can use it and not snap it off or break your console. The screen is a lot larger. Can't really tell until I turn that one on. See, they're bigger. Works really, really well. The mouse controls, as I said, I can use it on my thigh, and it works just like a desk. I think that's where my desk part was coming in. My brain was going a little too fast. The only problem I have with the Switch 2 is not something I can really show you because it would take 5 hours, but that is the battery life. The battery life on this, well, it's shit. The battery life is shit. The Switch 1 model had a bad battery. The Switch 2 has a bad battery. I know that there are reports of a new Switch 2 model that has a replaceable battery, but as for now, you might get 5 hours out of a full battery on the Switch 2, which is not a lot of time. It really should be quite a bit longer than that. I think it's safe to say that the Switch 1 had one of the best first-year lineups. You had Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You had things like ARMS and 1-2 Switch that nobody gives two shits about. But overall pretty good first-party lineups. And then you have the Switch 2's lineup, which is made up of remade or DLC-driven Switch 1 games. You have Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is a really, really fun collectathon platformer. You have Metroid Prime 4, which has a ton of criticisms about it being empty and a very big letdown. Same thing, I'm sure hype probably helped kill this game. It was hyped up for so many years. Since 2007, people had been expecting the next Metroid Prime. The other thing is Mario Kart World, which is super empty and had the critique of being too fast, but also not having enough action, not feeling enough like a Mario Kart game. Pocopia, which I haven't played, and Tomodachi Life 2, which is fantastic. But none of these are system sellers. A lot of games are on here for the first year, and none of them are bad games, but they aren't going to sell the system. A new 3D Mario would sell the system. A new 3D Zelda that wasn't like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom would sell the system. But none of these games are system sellers. Donkey Kong is not the system seller. Samus is not the system seller. And I think that these are big problems for the Switch 2, right? People want new games, and I think people want the system seller. People do not want to play obscure games. Some people do, like Metroid Prime 4. People want to play that game. Anybody wants to play a Metroid game, and I'm not saying to not have a Metroid, but when it comes to trying to sell your system in the first year, Metroid Prime 4 is not the way to do it. So, where do I think that the Switch 2 can improve? Well, I think there are 3 major points. Number 1, we need more system seller games. We need a 3D Mario. We need a Smash Brothers. We need a traditional 3D Zelda or an Ocarina of Time remake, as it has been heavily, heavily rumored. We need the system sellers. We need something that is going to get people who do not own a Switch 2, who are not diehard Nintendo fans like myself, to buy. It needs a reason, even for diehard Nintendo fans, to want to buy the system, because right now, a lot of these games are on Switch 1, and the ones that are not going to encourage anybody to buy them. They are very niche. Something like Donkey Kong Bonanza is not going to be everybody's thing. Just purely based on the fact that it is Donkey Kong and not Mario. If it was a Mario game, it would probably get everybody's attention, but it isn't. The other thing is it needs to use the mouse features a lot more. I think that is the second point there. It really needs to use the technology that the Switch 2 has to offer. The Wii had its motion controls, and it used that a lot. I think the Wii U struggled a little bit in many ways, of course, but I think one of the ways that it did struggle was it didn't use all the technology that it had. Star Fox Zero is a great example of a Wii U game that uses all of the Wii U's features. It uses the speakers, it uses the 2 screens, it uses the touch screen, it uses every single feature that system had to offer. And we don't have a game besides Donkey Kong Bonanza which hardly uses the mouse. I need to see more of these mouse controls. You have technology, use it. Sell what you want to use. And the fact that they are not using the mouse controls, I think is a very big missed opportunity. I think, no other system really has a way to use that yet, besides plugging in a mouse. So, stay ahead of the curve. And then lastly, I think that the third point that needs to be addressed is more regular directs. In the past year, we've had one normal direct, I believe a partner showcase, which nobody really wants to hear, and we've had a bunch of stupid Super Mario Galaxy movie trailers where they hype it up, they have a whole live stream for 2 minutes, we get to hear Chris Maledandri talk about whatever he wanted to say about the movie and how great it was going to be. And that's it. We need more regular directs to keep the hype building, to show, hey, this is what the system is going to have. This is why you should buy the Nintendo Switch 2. And I think that currently it hasn't had enough directs. Now, I know that there is a direct set to be tomorrow. Unfortunately, I cannot live stream my reaction, but I will, try and record my thoughts about it as soon as I possibly can. But if we're only going to get a yearly direct and a game announcement here and there, that's going to be a really big problem for the system. So I think the system needs to fix that. Hi, if you enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe and like the video. It helps me out a lot, gives me the self-esteem to continue making content and improving content. If you like the Nintendo Switch 2 or are considering buying it, drop it down in the comment section below and I'll see how many I can reply to. But this has been the Big MAC. See you later, MacPack.